Hello, 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 and welcome to the Ball and All podcast. My name is Mpho at Mpho. My Twitter handle is at Mpho Moriki, and on Instagram as well, you can see the banner at the bottom. Today, this show is the daily BAL recap, the Basketball Africa League that started on Sunday. We are on a day. It is day 4. It's not day 3. It's day 4 of the recap, and we've had some great basketball played today, and it was really great to see some of the games, and obviously today we cover the 3 games. The late one last night, AS Saleh against the Armed Forces and Police of Cameroon, FAP. And then we'll cover the GNBC versus the Patriots that happened earlier today, with the Patriots qualifying for the playoffs, which is really awesome for this Patriots team that had to come through qualification. And it was a semi-final matchup that happened in December 2019 between GNBC and the Patriots. It was a rematch of that. So I'll talk about that. And then also Ferraviario de Maputo and AS Douanes, which just ended right now. So that's going to be very good. And then, so we'll just show you the lay of the land in the BAL right now. We've gone through, let's get through that. We've gone through quite a lot of games. That's 9 games that we've gone through. And now we are headed we're headed on our way to the final group games. I've got about a few more to go, but we've seen through some of the games today, just to give you a lay of the land of what is going on in the BAL. So let's start talking about the first game. Last night, Saleh of Morocco took on formed Mayors Police, which is the Armed Forces and Police of Cameroon. Cameroon had qualified. The runners-up in the West Division. And it was a really great game. It was a 3-pointer. It ended up 87-84. And it was just end-to-end stuff. Not much defense, but it was lots of driving in from the wings. They had big wings. Both teams had big wings, had big centers, driving in, trying to get those layups in there. Anything that fell off the cylinder, the centers would clean up. Not the best shooting from the perimeter, or even from the mid-range. I think this tournament mid-range shooting is just not. It's either it's 2 or it's 3. It's either or. There's only a few mid-range shots that have been taken throughout this tournament. Came down to turnovers. It really did, and there were too many turnovers from FAP, and I think they'd be very disappointed themselves, because obviously they'd be wanting to show up against a team that got direct qualification, and it was just disappointing to see the amount of turnovers that the Cameroonians had. Some standout performance from the Cameroonian team were Amadou Haruna, who scored 23 points and 3 rebounds. He's a great forward for this FAP team, someone you need to watch out for. But their point guard, Marcus Thomas, he set the table for them, 21-7. If you think about it, FAP led throughout most of the game. They had a lead coming into that final. They had a lead of about, and I'll get you that number. Throughout they had a massive lead throughout that game. They had a lead of 13 points midway through the third quarter, and they just Saleh just came back. There was lots of transition play, and they just kept on putting up points, and it worked out for them as it came through. Saleh scored 28 points of turnovers. If you switch off a few of those turnovers in a 3-point game, it would go. And FAP had the final shot of the game and fell to Marcus Thomas. He couldn't put it away. But there was a lot of game management towards the back end that left a lot to be desired. And I think the Cameroonians in FAP would be very disappointed, because I think they had that game for the taking and they just let it slide. So that was that first game. AS Saleh and FAP, they go on as we just get through. Let's get through some of the fixtures. So they will go on to play. So Saleh will go on to play AS Police from Mali tomorrow night at 9 p.m. With FAP playing Patriots de Rwanda earlier on in the day. It's going to be interesting with Group B, because you've got Patriots de Rwanda, who look a quality side. And so for you to make it into the tournament, give yourself a chance in this tournament, you just need to win one game. So you need to look to see where you can get in. And I think the Saleh and FAP will be looking to the game against AS Police to see. It's not going to be an easy game to see if they can't pull out something there to be that lucky, one of the lucky two third place finishes at least. And then that's what's going to be quite important for them. So let's move on to the next game. The next game was today at 2 p.m. Central African time. That was GNBC versus the Patriots. Remember, the Patriots put a bit of an upset of Rwanda, put a bit of an upset against Rivers Hoopers of Nigeria in the opening game of the Basketball Africa League. And so what transpired, and obviously GNBC losing to US Monastir by that massive 47-point deficit. So GNBC were looking to put their name out there and let everybody know how good they are, because obviously they came up with a team that possibly is going to end up in the finals. And the Patriots are looking to get through. A win got them a qualification into the playoffs, and they managed to do that. It was a really good game of basketball. It was quite enjoyable. And if you look at GNBC, it was a 6-point game, and GNBC led for most of the first half, with the Patriots shooting not that great. They struggled throughout that first quarter, and as they went through, if you look at their first quarter stats, the Patriots were shooting 17% from the field, from three. They were shooting 39% from the field. And then the Patriots gradually grew into the game, and to a certain extent, the hot shooting that GNBC had in the first half, they were shooting 50% from the field. In the first quarter, they shot 64% from the field, kind of just waned as the day go on. You kind of felt that the Patriots knew that there was going to be a shooting slump that was going to come from GNBC, and they just needed to capitalize on that, and it came in the fourth quarter. GNBC only scoring 12 points in the fourth quarter, and Patriots scoring 22. GNBC were 1 for 9 from the 3-point line and 3 from 8 from inside. That's not going to win you a game if you have a quarter like that. And the Patriots, yes, they didn't do well from the 3-point line, but inside they were very good, and that comes in with their number 33. That is number 33 being Brandon Costner, who was MVP for the first game and was the MVP for this game. He came out with 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. He just really pushed this team forward. Then you had Diodone Ndizea, who's a really lovely player to watch. If you ever get a chance to watch the Patriots, he's one guy you should be watching. He got 13 points. And 6 rebounds as well. And then Bush Wamukota, the man from Kenya, 11 points, 11 rebounds, double from him. And to a certain extent, they asserted their dominance on the inside, and they just kept on going. They realized that they needed to get the ball inside. GNBC were playing small ball, so they're living around the perimeter, driving in sporadically, and the shots were falling in for the first half, and towards the second half, it just kind of waned away, and now is the opportunity, or with the halftime adjustments, for the Patriots to do that. Costner was really immense. Prince Ibe, who was like the fan favorite in the first game, only got 7 points and 6 rebounds in that game. He really did struggle. He was fouled quite a lot, and he went to the foul line 8 times, only scoring once out of those 8 times. If he gotten half of those, he probably would have been in contention to be. You've got like 60% of those free throws. He would have been in contention for MVP, but that's something he needs to fix, and that's something that this Patriots team needs to fix going into the playoffs. You can't have 20 free throws and only score 7. That's just criminal in this game, because you're doing everything to get to the line. You're driving in, you're getting fouled, you're looking for contact, you're seeking contact, and then you get to the charity stripe. It's a free throw, and you just let it go. And I think that's the sad part about this. That's something the Patriots will look to improve. The GNBC team were hit by the injury to Calvin Ridley. I think if Calvin Ridley was there, they'd be able to establish a front court game that could help them create a little bit more open shots on the outside. It didn't do that, and so that's something that GNBC will have to consider. But remember, they're still not out of it. Beat Rivers Hoopers. You give yourself a chance of entering the playoffs as one of the two best third place finishers. So GNBC, it's not over. It's just that the Patriots are the first team to go through, and that's a good thing, and that's something that they'd be really proud of, coming as the winners of the East Division in the qualifiers to this. Is really, really impressive. They've gone unbeaten in the BAL essentially throughout. They have not lost. Played 11 games from the qualifiers to now, and the Patriots are unbeaten in 11 games, which is a really important, which is really, really great from them. And so that was that second game. And then we're going to look at Ferraviario de Maputo, this final game that happened now against AS Douanes. Ferraviario needed to win a game. They lost the first game earlier on in the tournament, and they needed to come back. They lost that first game to Zamalek, and they needed to come back in. And so this was a perfect opportunity, because Douanes actually won their first game, and so they were looking to qualify for the playoffs. This was a really intriguing game, ebbing and flowing in and out throughout. But the one thing that was actually very interesting was that it came down to a team that fouls too much, and a team that it came down to a team that fouls too much and forced people to the line. Douanes had 23 fouls to 12. And that means that Ferraviario de Maputo went to the foul line 23 times compared to 14 times. And Ferraviario are such a great team that they scored a 91% rate, their free throws. They scored 21 of those 23, whereas Douanes scored 6 of their 14. They lost by 8. So you can actually kind of see that actually there wasn't a massive gap between both teams. They were very sloppy sometimes, especially the guards from both sides. They were very sloppy. And the forwards of both teams are really good. And I want to talk about the forwards of both teams. But there was something that wasn't just sitting well with. But the one thing that happened was that both teams struggled from the 3-point line, mid 30%ers. And so it just came down to those small little things that, and that's what this tournament is coming into this week. We're getting some very tight games, and it's small things that are derailing teams here and there. We saw FAP not necessarily being able to control. They had the ball with 18 seconds to go, and they needed a 3-point shot. They needed 2 points at the time. In that FAP game, and then they missed it. They didn't manage it well. In this game, it was just fouls. 2 of the best Douanes players, the defensive presence in Atia, I think the number 42, as well as he got fouled out. And he's such a great defensive presence for them. He did well in the first game. And then you also had Lamine Diop, who was the MVP in the previous game. He got 4 fouls midway through the third quarter. He then went largely silent towards the fourth quarter, which kind of hurt AS Douanes a lot there. But if you look at this Ferraviario team, we now finally got to see how great they are. That Zamalek game you kind of saw glimpses, but it kind of felt that they weren't able to impose themselves. And one of the key things was Ajay Baru, the Ivorian international, the number 32, managed to come into this game. He needed FIBA clearance in the first game, so he couldn't play. He comes into this game, adds them the defense presence, double, 13 points, 11 rebounds, most importantly, 3 blocks. He was the best defensive player on the court, and he imposed himself, and he was the one who made the important stops towards the back end that kind of derailed the comeback that Douanes was making. Demarcus Holland, the American player, he scored 16 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. He was really good with 3 steals. Mike Kabongo, the Congolese point guard of theirs, 20 points, 3 rebounds, 11 assists. He just set the table for everybody. He was really good. He would drive in. If the help defender came, he found the open man, and he just made it a lot easier for his teammates. But the MVP of the game for the second time in a row for this Maputo team, Alvaro Masa, he scored 23 points in the first game, scoring 26 points today. He was just really good. He's a scorer. 7 from 16 from the field. He scored over 40% from 4 threes out of 9 shots, 9 rebounds as well, 4 assists. He was just everywhere, just causing problems for Douanes. In the losing course, Douanes can be very happy with some of their players. It's not over. They've won a game, and they are currently leading the group, obviously before the final games tonight in Group C. But you got Mamadou Faye, who was a really great three-point shooter in the first game. He came out with 21 points. Sheikh Bamba, the number 2, 15 points and 7 rebounds. And Lamine Diop, 13 points and 6 rebounds. This team, these are all forwards in this team. And they need their guards to come through for them if they want to get further in the tournament. I think they will probably make it into the playoffs, but they've got a lot of work to do, especially from the fouling part. They tend to swipe at the ball. They tend to the interesting thing is they did this in the first game. They would collapse their defense on the big center if there was a big center, to force him to either pass out or make it hard for him. But in the first game they didn't foul that much. In this game it just was fouls everywhere, and so that would be disappointing from them. So that was the recap of the third game. Let's just go through the fixtures again, and then we'll go through the group tables. So obviously tonight Zamalek played GS Petroleos of Algeria at 9 p.m. It's going to be quite interesting. I think Petroleos will be happy to be playing a team that matches their style a little bit better with the big centers and playing a lot of the balls inside. But Zamalek is a really good all-round team. So that's going to be quite an interesting game for Petroleos, because they also want to keep themselves. And it'll be very interesting if 4 teams are on 3 points at the end of tonight. And that I'll cover tomorrow with the game that FAP plays against Petro de Luanda tomorrow at 2 p.m. CAT, as well as the US Monastir game versus Rivers Hoopers. And then the final game in the second round will be AS Salé versus AS Police. I'll discuss that during the rest day, because there is a rest day coming up, because all the other games will then play. I will start on Saturday with the final group games, as you can see there. So lots of basketball coming up. But let's look at the groups and just give you a bit of the permutations. You can see in Group A, the Patriots have qualified. They're highlighted in blue. Their job is done. So they've got a game against US Monastir, which is going to be quite interesting to see how they match up against one of the tournament favorites, and put that unbeaten record on the line. You've then got obviously Monastir on 2 points. GNBC having lost both games, you get 1 point for losing. They are in third. Rivers Hoopers still yet to play Monastir. They're going to do that tomorrow. That's going to be also an intriguing game to see how those guys do going forward. And then in Group B, those are last night. So Group B's all the Group B teams only played 1 game. You can see how tight it is in that group. I think all teams have a chance of making it through. So it's going to be quite interesting to see who ends up staking their name into the playoffs. And then finally Group C, AS Douanes are leading there slightly by a points difference of 4 points. Ferraviario of Maputo in second spot on 3 points as well. Both teams have lost 1 and won 1, but Ferraviario would be happy to have closed that gap. They won by 14 points. They lost the first game by 16, so it is -2. And then Zamalek, obviously the one team with 2 points yet to play, and they'll be playing tonight. So Group B, by the end of tonight, we'll have seen if Zamalek wins, they make it through. They qualify for the playoffs. So that's it for the daily recap of the Basketball Africa League. Do follow me on Twitter. Do follow me on Instagram. Do also like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's very important. Like the video so we can get the algorithms going for the Basketball Africa League. And also, please do subscribe to the channel. I cover the WNBA and the basketball and the NBA as well in a weekly podcast. So that's going to be also quite cool. I try to do this all year round. So if you like my content, please do subscribe and you'll get more of it. So thank you very much. Enjoy your evening and enjoy the basketball coming up in the Basketball Africa League in Kigali. Have a good night and lesale kakahiso.